Hi there, Perfecto Castro here and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. Okay, I have a very special shop visit tour for you guys. I'm here at Anderson Guitarworks right here in Newberry Park, California. And we're going to take a peek behind the scenes into what goes into building these wonderful guitars. Now, this whole intro is a reshoot because I lost the initial footage. But joining me in this video is the Tom Anderson. Let's go. Okay, Future Perf here. After watching the video preview, I have to warn you guys that some of the footage during this shop tour walk segment is poorly framed, and I do apologize for that, but I was a one-man camera crew trying to point the camera in the right direction at the same time, you know, carrying on a conversation with Tom and focusing on what he was sharing. So yeah, and sometimes the DJI Pocket 3 camera tends to wander and, you know, almost like it had a mind of its own and trying to decide framing for me. This is going to be a long video, so grab your snacks, and here are the timestamps if you want to skip around or if you want to go back and review something. I will also have the timestamps embedded in the video itself. So yeah, here we go.
Called Primavera, which is another South American wood. Sometimes they call it white mahogany. And it's right here. So it is sort of, oh, this light is terrible. But it has a mahogany-like grain, but certainly a color more like a little bit yellower than swamp ash or like limba.
Right.
It tends to have ash-like grain as far as you get those cathedral grains, you know, coming across the form contour and stuff. And again, we've had a really good supply of light stuff. This is questionable whether it'll always be around.
Okay.
It kind of happens here now and then.
Right.
Some of it's really heavy, so we don't want that.
Yeah.
But this is all stuff that's, you know, the right weight.
And how long do they hang out here in this area before they get processed?
Could be anywhere. You know, alder we get regularly. That's probably we use more alder than anything.
Okay.
So we probably get alder every month. We get some amount of it. But some things like swamp ash, we may have to buy 3 to 6 months worth at a time because it's not always available.
Right.
It does grow in swamp, so in the rainy season you can't cut it.
Right.
So you have to wait until the drier season where you can actually get it and cut it, so it's not available all year round.
And then, are they seasoned before they get into this product?
Yeah, they're all kiln dried before they get here.
Okay.
And because there are so many guitar companies in Southern California, about 15 years ago, there was this new industry making bikes.
Right.
Like prior to that, all you did was buy lumber. You know, you bought long lumber and you cut it up and you threw away the waste and all that stuff. But about 15 years ago, probably mostly fueled by Fender, they wanted to buy body blanks, not lumber.
Okay.
So now there's 3 different companies in Southern California, and there's a few elsewhere in the country that just their business is making body blanks.
Okay.
And what's great about that is that when you cut, especially alder, because alder's not a very big tree, so you end up with a lot of narrow boards. Mm-hmm. Well, we want 2-piece center seam. 1 piece is nice, but you'll hardly ever see alder in 1 piece. It's just not big enough tree.
Right.
So you end up with all these 4-inch boards, 5-inch boards, 6-inch boards that end up being thrown away and trying to make 2-piece body blanks. Right. So these guys can make different grades of body blanks. They can make a 2-piece center seam blank that's completely clean. They would call that a sunburst grade. Okay. You know, where it's got to be clean.
Clean, yeah.
Then they go all the way down to like a 4-piece paint grade.
Paint.
Okay. Which you don't want to,
solid color.
That's what your black guitars are made of. Not ours, but but I mean, you know, a lot of people have to make guitars that are less expensive than what we're doing.
Right.
So they don't need to.
Yeah.
They don't need to pay the premium for the great blank.
Right.
So the 4-piece blank is still good wood.
Yes.
it just won't look pretty.
Yeah.
And it could be heavier also.
Okay.
They tend to pull all the light stuff to make premiums out of it because they get more for it.
Have you experienced where you cut a body blank in half and one half is heavier than the other?
We don't, because generally mostly of what we get is taken from two pieces that are right next to each other.
I see. Okay.
Or like these, both halves are right here. In other words, this will get cut in half. So
okay, so cut in half and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
They are called slip matching or
slip matching.
Yeah. And that way you get the same piece of wood.
Okay. Okay. So very cool.
You know, with alder, alder probably has the most defects of all kind of wood, you know, knots, and just, it's a nasty wood.
Okay.
You know, they're smaller trees, they have lots of branches, so there's tons of knots and other weird defects in alder. Yeah. So even though the two maybe came from the same board, there might be a piece that's big missing between the two halves.
Okay.
So you don't get quite as perfect a match as you get there, but it's still the same color. Okay. You know, and the weight is still the same. So that works out good.
What is your preferred wood combination?
It depends what it's for.
Okay.
You know,
like for your personal guitar.
Well, okay. I have probably 3 guitars that I play regularly. They're different from each other. So one is one of our new guitars, Wolfhound, that we'll be releasing in January, and that one is Spanish cedar with a mahogany neck.
Okay.
I've got a Raven, which is our offset body, and that one's alder with a maple neck. Okay. Love that guitar too. And then I have a T that's a double humbucker T, and that one's Okume. Okume. With a trim and with caramel maple neck. Okay. So I tend to not have fancy guitars. I don't think I might own one guitar with a maple top. Okay. Okay. But for the most part, I really enjoy the Okume and the Spanish cedar because they're like a really nice light mahogany top. Okay. You know, when mahogany gets heavier, I don't particularly care for it. Right. But what's really been nice so far with the Spanish cedar and Okume is it always comes in at that bottom range of mahogany weight, so it's really nice.
But it still has the qualities of a good mahogany.
Yeah, it has that airy, that warm mid-range. Right. I tend to, I overgeneralize by saying there's 2 kinds of people. Mm-hmm. There's the person who it's never quite fat enough and smooth enough, or there's the person who it's never quite articulate and sharp enough. Super present attack. Right. I like it soft. I like it to bloom when you hit the note as opposed to whack. Like if you're a funk player, you love Swamp Ash because it's got all the percussion and snappiness.
It's funny, like going back to the classical guitar thing. Yeah. It's like spruce versus cedar.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love cedar tops. I love cedar tops. Yeah. I've got an acoustic guitar. It's my favorite guitar, and it's a rosewood with cedar top. Okay. It's awesome. Yeah. It's the best acoustic guitar I've ever played. Nice. So this is a new one for us too. We did some with it years and years ago, and it's a wood called Obichi. So it's an African wood. Yeah. And it is mahogany-like grain, but again a lighter color, which lends itself. And the problem we ran into with Obichi is it's really light. So it can be too light. Okay. You can get a 2-pound body out of Obichi, and that's not what we want. So what we did is we went to our supplier who had the Obichi, and I said, what's the weight range that you have? And I said, will you pull the heavier ones? Which I said, I can't believe I'm actually saying this because I never say give me the heavy ones. But a heavy Obichi body is going to be a 3.5-pound body. Okay. So it's another one of those woods. It's right in that sweet spot. Okay. But can be too light. Right. So this was everything he had that was over I don't want the minimum weight. I want the heavy, the medium to heavy. Okay. That's interesting. So that's a new one for us because it's been more and more difficult to even alder to get the weight we want. Right. It's just like I said, nobody wants heavy guitar. Yeah. So there's Obichi, there's alder, more alder. That's a little bit of Swamp Ash. This is more Swamp Ash, this Primavera and Spanish cedar. Yeah, and Swamp Ash. Yeah. So these are blanks that we bought.
Yeah, it's matched so well that it looks like a single piece. Yeah. Very cool.
Well, basswood. This is all mahogany. We have mostly genuine, what people call Honduras mahogany. But in the last year or so, we've bought a little bit of African mahogany too, because again, it's weight.
Okay. So African tends to be lighter?
It can be, but it doesn't. There's heavy too.
Okay.
So it's not. You really have to pick and choose.
Okay.
And so far, people are getting a little less anxious to select for weight.
Right.
So far, we're doing okay.
Okay. Good. And then, what's your preferred wood for necks?
Well, I enjoy them both.
Okay.
We use mostly, white maple, caramel maple, and chocolate maple. It's the same thing.
Okay.
The same wood. It's just the caramel is a roasted maple, but it's a lighter roasted maple, and that's caramel. This is chocolate.
Okay.
And when it gets finished, it gets darker.
Yes.
So it gets noticeably darker. And then this is mahogany here.
And then are those rosewood necks?
These are a few rosewoods, and we are contemplating taking it off the list.
Okay.
We just can't get good enough material.
Right.
We probably have a close to 50% failure rate when we're making the necks.
Okay.
In other words, we do everything like we normally do. We're buying perfectly straight before we start with it.
Right.
And everything, and by the time we're done with the neck, we got a back load neck, we got a front load neck. It's just the wood's just not, either it's the way it was growing, the way they cut it, or the way they dried it, or whatever. We've tried everybody that sells it, and it's just it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
No matter how much we charge, we lose money.
It's
like it's just no point. And and I personally have never played a rosewood neck guitar that I loved.
Okay.
It's got a hardness to it, a hardness to the tone. It's kind of harsh to me, and the treble is very hard and in your pointy, like pokes you in the forehead. It's never sweet. It's never. I just think it's never pretty sounding.
Yeah.
So it might work great for a super high gain guy.
Right.
But again, it's and it's a heavy neck, and if you want a light body and a heavy neck, you can get into trouble.
Yeah.
Not on a like a T body. Those are dangerous.
Right.
The body, because of where the strap is on.
Yes, it's
the guitar
like
does more
15th, 17th fret.
Yeah. So with S's and angels and that kind of stuff, balance is never a problem.
Yeah, because of the upper horn.
Yeah.
Well, it's a common debate, but which is the warmer sounding wood, rosewood or maple?
I don't think rosewood's warm. I just don't.
No.
It's not super bright, but it's hard. It's got that hard attack, and warm is mahogany.
Right.
Mahogany neck is squishier, and it's got air in it, and it's just, it makes for that natural compression more than either of maple or wood.
Because it's interesting, because a lot of people hear with their eyes, so they see a lighter colored fretboard or neck. It's like, it's a bright sounding wood.
Well, if we're just talking about fretboard. Yeah, no, I don't. I think actually rosewood has a higher high.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking the S's, that stuff.
Sibilance.
Rosewood has that stuff up top.
Right.
So that can get fizzy or fuzzy when your gain's big.
Right.
So a maple neck will often tone down. It's present in that treble, but it doesn't have the super high stuff.
Right.
So it can hold together better maybe, or be clearer than a rosewood.
So that's probably what people are hearing, as opposed to just treble or high end.
Yeah.
Well,
and the bottom end is more controlled with a maple neck.
Yes.
So it's not like it's gone, but it's just tighter.
Right.
It's defined and has definition, and it has an attack.
Right.
Where rosewood necks is more like rosewood fingerboards compared to maple fingerboards have a looser low end.
Right.
Which if you're playing with mid gain, higher gain, you might think that's muddy.
Yes.
Where maple neck, that's so much clearer.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, it's I find maple has a better fundamental tone.
Yeah.
Because I've compared both maple and rosewood. Rosewood tends to be brighter for me, but not much meat to the sound, as opposed to maple is right there, and then you can hold the note better.
And in the mix of a band, I think a maple.
It doesn't really matter.
Well, I think in a band though, I think the maple will help you kind of push through the band a little.
Oh yeah, of course.
But again, I'm the things are never quite smooth enough or sustaining enough, you know.
Right.
So for me, which is weird because two of my guitars have maple necks, but I tend to favor rosewood fingerboard.
I see. I see.
Well, like I say, my maple fingerboards are on fat sounding bodywoods.
Okay.
So
nice.
It's a good balance.
And then those are the fretboards?
There are some, yeah. Right now we're really low on rosewood. We've got a big shipment that's on its way to us now.
Okay.
But the bottom, these giant pile are the black heart.
Black heart.
Which is actually, it's a roasted purple heart.
Oh.
So that's what you see, that's really black looking.
Okay.
And it's great stuff. It's only been around for a few years, but it's really, really nice.
But it's more uniform, like ebony.
Yeah, it's more uniform in color. It's almost black. You know, it's a little silvery charcoal when it's raw, but when it gets oiled and stuff, it gets pretty black. But it has more of the sound of rosewood.
Okay.
So it doesn't have that hard edge that ebony has.
Yeah.
It sounds more like it's a fuller sounding thing than ebony. So it's really popular, and we enjoy it because it's uniform. Everyone that orders a rosewood fingerboard says, "Oh, I want a dark one."
Now you have it.
Yeah, we pick our fingerboards for dark. Our supplier knows we want darker ones, and we pay more. And so we get a very nice selection of rosewood.
Okay.
Super happy with what we get in rosewood.
Nice.
But still, if you want dark, that's
there you have it.
These neck blanks here are just ones that we've prepped the neck blanks we're going to use weeks ahead. We do that initial straightening, joining, and planing. We do that several weeks ahead of when we're going to use them, and then just let them sit in that condition. Then we can inspect them again before we actually start making the neck, and weed out anything that has moved. And then you do something to a piece of wood. It was a living thing with tension in it and stress and all that stuff. And if it was dried properly, there's not as much stress, but there's still something in there. When you start cutting a piece of wood, when you bandsaw a piece of wood, or you slice a fingerboard off a maple neck like we do, it needs a little bit of time to relax.
Yeah, get used to the new form.
Yeah, and sometimes if it's a bad piece, it'll tell you.
Right away.
It'll go, whoa, what happened? You know, and then you don't use it, and then you don't have to make a bad neck. Throw away.
Right.
So we try to do as much weeding out ahead of time as we can to sift through what could be a problem. And then you'll see later on, we do all our machining stages in necks, and then they sit in a cart for a month because we've done everything we're going to do to carve it and all that. So that's a lot of wood material being removed. So that's where it's really going to show if there's a problem with the wood.
Yeah.
So they sit for a month, and then before we fret them, we do a final retruing of the fingerboard surface so that it's perfect before the frets go in, so that when we do the fret job, we're not taking a bunch of material out of the frets.
Right.
You know, the idea is if you can make a perfect fingerboard surface, then dressing frets is easy.
Yes. So are all the necks still shaped by hand, or?
No, they're all CNC cut. We have. So anyway, then all the machinery here is just to take those blanks and get them down to the right thickness and flatness.
Okay.
And that kind of thing. So we have 3 of these Fidal CNC machines, and this one primarily does all the neck operation. So this is a machine neck. So this is all with no sanding. Nothing's been done to this other than all the machine operations. So you can see that the shape is very well defined.
Yeah.
It's not. We're not having to go in there with patterns and look and see if it's the right shape, because this is the way it comes off the machine. All we have to do is sand it. You can feel the little bit of ridges that are in there. So it's very, very minor amount of sanding. We're not.
Can I feel it?
Oh, absolutely.
I love the heel. I love the heel. Oh, and there's inserts too.
Yeah, there's steel inserts.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's 2 1032 machine screws that hold the neck on, and one of those screws can put more pressure than 4 wooden screws.
Right. Yeah, it is almost like the final shape. So it's just
oh yeah,
just a touch up of sanding.
yeah. And we've got, I don't know, 20 different back shapes that we do, and then different depths. We can take our regular even taper and make it 30 thousandths bigger, 50 thousandths bigger, whatever. So.
Nice.
So anyway, so these are the necks. So these have been sitting. They get a date on them when they're carved, and they get entered in the computer so that we know when they were carved. And then a month from now, we'll generate a list of, okay, these necks have now sat for their appropriate period of time.
Right.
They're ready to be checked, and then fingerboard surface, touch stuff to make sure it's perfect.
So and
then we make the body to go with it at that point.
So typically 30 days lead time for the necks before the body.
After this. Yeah.
After this, yeah.
After this, yeah. After it's carved, then it sits for 30 days.
Okay.
Then we finish the neck,
right.
And make the body to go with it. So this is the first stage of a body. We've got a layout template that we locate and drill 2 holes, and then those 2 holes are used to index it on the machine. So this will get all these cavities cut, the outside perimeter is traced, and then we'll bandsaw this out, and then it'll go back on the machine upside down.
Oh, for the rear.
Then everything is the outside shape, and then everything that's done on the back side gets done. Right. And then from here, it's all handwork on sanders and oracles.
Nice. And this is a drop top.
Yes, this one's actually going to be a baritone.
Ah,
baritone drop top. That one is too.
So for drop tops, the top is laminated onto the body blank before it gets routed.
Yeah. Well, what we do is we do this cut first.
Okay.
On the blank.
Okay.
So that the contour is there. Yeah, we contour the back.
Okay.
And then the top is glued on and bent over it.
So when you're bending it, is it kind of like bending acoustic guitar sides? You wet?
No, it's not. No, it's not, because we've got a glue joint here.
Okay.
So if you got this wet, that glue joint would break.
Right.
So that's what a blank looks like before top goes on it.
Ah.
So we run some wire channels.
Right.
Yeah, and then do this, and then.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah, and this was like 91 or 92. We were making flat top maple top guitars.
Right.
But everyone wants the form contour. Right. Nobody was doing that. So I was having Bob Taylor and I have done lots of collaboration over the years with the CNC machines and the UV paint and stuff. Yeah. So I was talking to him and I go, man, we need to bend this thing, but it's too stiff to bend. He goes, why don't you kerf it?
Yeah. So like the acoustic guitar linings.
Linings.
Yeah.
So all we did is we did that, and then we left the area where the edge of the body is unkerfed so you don't see it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have. Right. So you can't see it once it's done. Yeah. And that makes it flexible enough.
Yeah. Probably a good gluing surface to the.
Yeah. Well, all these edges, this all gets glued.
Okay.
These skinny pieces all get glued down. So it's not, and then it's glued in a vacuum bag.
Okay.
So if you were to try to, and there's pins to locate it. But if I were to take this and pull this all the way down, I'd probably break the maple top.
Right.
Because all the pressure is happening at here.
Right.
But because vacuum pulls even pressure everywhere, puts all the pressure everywhere, it just pulls it down real gently.
Okay.
And they never break.
And then you store them with weights.
Yeah.
Keep them straight. Yeah.
There's other material for tops here. These are all just future tops. Some other woods that can also be topped, and then the other side is all maple.
So, aside from maple, what other wood tops do you use?
Like we use ash, koa,
like walnut.
A little bit of walnut.
Yeah.
Walnut's very limited as to what you can do color-wise. It's so dark brown that you can't. Even a sunburst, it has to be a really dark, almost black edge to really show.
Right.
Walnut is used, a lot for gun stocks, and they pay insane money for that stuff. Like $1,000 for a piece of wood.
Yeah. So it's stiff competition for that wood.
Well, it is. So most people that cut walnut do more gun stock stuff. Acoustics to some degree.
Acoustic, yeah.
I've got a Claro walnut sides and backs on an acoustic guitar. That's a really nice guitar. But also walnut, occasionally there's the spectacular piece, but generally speaking, when walnut gits curl and it's softer and not as dynamic. You know, it's not as whoa. You know? So we don't use that much of it.
I see.
But I think probably more because it's the color. It just doesn't lend itself. You can't do any see-through colors on it. You can't. So
it's just pretty much just natural.
Yeah, or a little bit of a shaded edge around. We do that a fair amount. And then some of these are just blocks that are, waiting, but we haven't sliced yet. These will be sliced in the carved tops. That's not that nice. Most of the figured maple we buy is already sliced into thin sets. So all we have to do is
just the kerfing and the...
we have to dry it actually. Most of the maple we use is West Coast, North Pacific Northwest grown maple, and the natural moisture content, equilibrium moisture content there is probably 12%. So even if you dry something down to 6% up there, if it sits in your shop for a couple of weeks, it's going to go back up to 12%. So when we get it down here, we re-dry the maple tops to get them down.
And speaking of drying, is this humidity controlled? Or?
To some degree, our problem has always been that we have to worry about being too dry.
Being too dry,
Because we get Santa Ana winds blowing up the desert, and it'll drop to nothing in an hour. So we have the ability to add moisture. We've never had too much moisture. We've never had humidity like they see back east and in the Midwest and stuff. But that's changing. So we're probably in the next few years going to have to think about how do we dehumidify? It's much harder to dehumidify and much more expensive to dehumidify.
I mean, it's the reason why we can't build nice guitars in the Philippines, because it's because humidity is like 80-90%. So as soon as it leaves the Philippines, it just shrinks and cracks and stuff.
So we see days that are 60%, which isn't terrible. It's going to see that out in the world. And that's the other thing is, I almost feel like you can't baby the wood too much. It's like you've babied it and you've had it in perfect conditions, and then you send it out in the world, and then go, what do you mean 90% humidity? What do you mean 30% humidity? So there's got to be some kind of a balance there. We do our best, and I'd say that this climate is probably easier to deal with than a lot of places. So I think we're fortunate in that regard. But like I said, climate is changing, and we're seeing humidity we never used to see. So we're probably going to have to figure out how to deal with that. And it's hard because our dust collector empties the building every 10 minutes.
It
pulls enough air that it's evacuating this air. So even if you dry the air, you're throwing it out again. It's much more difficult. But like I said, so far we've been able to manage it to a degree.
Good. And then it's good to see that even though the CNCs, there's still quite a bit of handwork.
I mean, making a solid body, it spends probably 30 minutes maximum on the CNC, and then it spends 3 or 4 hours getting everything else done to it by hand. So there's a lot of... Some people are under the opinion that it comes out of the machine like
it's just spits out guitars finished. I mean, I saw a comment recently I feel like a lot of the guitar playing folk don't really understand what a CNC does.
No, they think it's a magic machine that you put in a log and it comes out a guitar.
Most basic idea, it's basically a tool that cuts wood.
It's better than a pin router. I mean, before we had CNCs, we used pin routers. And we spent even more time finishing it because there was a lot more problems. So it's just a better tool.
So, you heard it.
The whole concept of a handmade guitar you use tools no matter how you make the guitar. So
well, as soon as you pick up an electric drill, it's not handmade anymore.
that's the thing. So it's a silly term, really.
Yeah.
Handmade. So these are the new necks he's starting this week. They're in their first stages. So they've been drilled with a bandsaw, tension rods have been loaded in, first are in. So now they're ready for fingerboard, and this surface has been cut, so they're ready for fingerboards. And then on this machine, we do so bodies in the middle, necks on the end, and this one we do other smaller parts.
Okay.
We make pick guards, we make some other bridges for crowd stirs. We make other plastic cars, just some modification of bridges, some metalworking.
Right.
So all that happens over here. And then this machine is also a backup in case one of those has a problem.
Okay.
So we don't have to stop.
Nice. And then these are for like sanding the finished bodies?
He's working on the finish. We're going to go one back one.
Okay, cool.
So once the bodies and necks have been matched up, they all get a corresponding number, so BO85, and then there's a neck BO85.
Okay.
So the bodies come in here, so that's Spanish cedar.
Oh. Okay. Can I see how heavy it is?
Yeah, probably.
It's very light.
Yeah.
And then what is the top?
This is a quilted top, but it's a top that was on its way to spalting.
Oh.
So
okay.
it's
just very.
It's got a ton of color in it, and when it gets finished on it, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it'll just pop.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's like bubbles.
Oh yeah, yeah, and all the stuff, these things around that if you wiggle it, you can barely see the shine, but when it's got finish on it, it's like 3D. Yeah, really beautiful. So in here, he preps them for paint, and then if they're going to get stained, they get stained in here. And then once the body's all stained, they'll hand cut this edge to slightly round it.
Then I saw what was that finish called? A wake burst.
Wake burst. Yeah, so these are all waiting for staining, and then.
Oh, what are these cutoffs?
Oh, just where these testing stains.
Oh, testing stains. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. What kind of finish do you use?
The base coat and top coat are UV cured polyester.
Okay.
Color coats are acrylic urethane. Our distressed guitars are nitro because they have to crack.
Yeah.
So these are the necks that are ready for finish to go with the bodies that are in there.
Okay.
So they'll hit the finish department together. So these are the guitars that he shot color on this morning. So they first get a clear base coat on the ones he's doing there. He's going to come in later today or probably tomorrow. They'll get sprayed with clear base coat, and that will be enough finish on the guitar that the chords will be filled and it can be sanded level, smooth, level, and then they're ready for color. So they'll get masked if they have binding.
That's the I played the pink sparkle one.
Oh yeah. So these, they got color on them this morning. They got clear coated this afternoon. They'll be UV cured in the morning, and then we'll sand them one more time and spray. There's 3 final coats of clear, and that's what we'll get them up. And then they're sprayed over here. This is the UV curing chamber.
Okay.
So the bodies go in there, they spin around and go inside to the lights and come back out.
And how long does that process take?
3 15-second cycles.
Oh.
So these have been base coated. Yeah. So
there it is.
Yeah. So these have the first coats of finish on them. You can see they're not smooth at all. But they should be able. There should be
the orange peel.
Yeah. And it starts to shrink in depending on where the hard and soft areas are on the maple. So these will get sanded and then they'll be ready for spring color. And that's what he's doing now. He's prepping the rack for tomorrow.
Okay.
Color for tomorrow. He's sanding them. Yeah, these got shot a while. These got shot this morning. So they got their satin coats. So next get their satin coats on. And then if they're going to get a headstock painted, they'll go back up on the wall and then he'll pull that when he's ready to do the body. So they have it at the same time.
I like that you're doing like contrasting colors for the logos now.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun.
So here's a Spanish cedar also. This is one of my guitars.
It does look like not mahogany, but
it kind of has ash-looking grain, but it's mahogany pore structure and stuff.
Yeah.
It's fun
Spanish cedar. The chameleon.
Yeah.
Color shift.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
This is fun too.
Oh.
Sparkly.
Yeah.
So these are top coated, and they're cured. So tomorrow these will get sanded and polished.
Okay. And then this
is where we do all the
fretting. Okay.
So I didn't describe it earlier, but when the neck is sat for its month of waiting time and settling time, we have a fixture we put the neck in at that point to true up the fingerboard. So it simulates string tension, so we can sand the fingerboard perfect under simulated tension.
Right.
We have the same fixtures in final assembly, and when they dress the frets, they also put them under tension.
Okay.
So that you could dress the frets.
It's like the neck jig.
Yeah, and then this is all pickguard making supplies. So these are the different materials we use, and then these are the different fixtures for making the different pickguards.
Okay. And these are the ones inside the CNC,
yeah, they all go onto that machine.
How many guitars do you make in a month?
We try to make 24 a week.
24 a week. Wow.
Yeah. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't.
Okay.
So,
wow.
I think we're probably going to end up at around 1,100 for the year.
Okay.
Yeah. These are lasers. We got them, the first one years ago, to make our pickup fibers.
Okay.
You know, the black fiber parts that are on top of the pickups. And then we just found a ton of other uses for them.
Yeah.
So we cut plastic plates. We do our engraving on the back of the headstock.
I saw the 40th logo.
Yeah.
40th anniversary logo.
And then if a guitar doesn't have a pickguard, we cut the control holes, like 5-way switch slot, on the laser after it's buffed. So we cut right through the finish and everything.
Okay.
So that's a 5-way switch slot.
Oh, okay.
Basically, that was looks like it might have been mahogany.
Yeah.
But that's the
dark finish.
whole top. Yeah.
Okay. So just zap through it.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So they're very fun machines. They allow you to do.
Yeah. So that way you don't have to clean the inside of the slot after spraying.
Yeah, it's actually black because it burns.
Right.
It looks good, and also it doesn't, because it's not a cutter, so there's no cutting force, so there's no possible for a chip.
Right.
It's just.
That's a laser.
And you don't even have to hold the body,
right.
like clamp it down. We just have a fixture with pins in it to locate it.
Okay.
And it just sits there, and the laser just goes.
Yeah, least stress.
Yeah. So
I like that. That's kind of like a common thread in your building. It's like you don't want the wood stress. You don't want any part of the process being stressful for the instrument and for the builder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, originally it was, when we talk about CNC machines, it's like cutting a pickup hole is not like a artisan crafty thing. It's tedious dog work. So why not have a machine do that kind of stuff?
Right.
That it can certainly do better than I could do. You know, and more repeatable and all that stuff. And leave the artsy craftsy hand work to the hands of people who know what they're doing. It's knowing what tool to use for what job.
Right, exactly.
And that's the thing. You just, anyway, I won't go on about the whole hand. That's just silly. This is pickup making. So these are all the different fiber pieces that we cut on the laser.
Okay.
So these are just, all the different models of pickups, and they get pressed together with steel pins or magnets, depending on what kind of pickup it is.
Now, one thing that always struck me about your pickups is that the pole pieces are bigger.
Not everything, but most the early ones for sure.
Because for me that was like the Tom Anderson signature.
Yeah, the humbuckers for sure. Yeah.
Like I can see like.
Those are the big ones. Yeah, and still our H series pickups are all the big pole pieces. Our SCs and SAs and SFs, those are all large. So these are all finished pickups of different varieties. So these are all done, and these are all, in theory, these are what we're going to be needing in the next few weeks over there. So the idea is if this is always full, then when they start to build a guitar, they can finish it.
Okay.
So it's managing inventory. It's a big deal.
What do you look for in the pickup?
Well, different things and different ones. That's why there's so many.
Yeah. But for your personal.
Oh, well, you know, that's a moving target.
Okay.
I'd say I'm probably playing weaker pickups than I used to play now.
Okay. I'm the same.
Yeah, I'm playing our weakest humbuckers now. I really enjoy them. I love the PHs, which is the P90 or quiet P90 in a humbucking size frame. Got those in one of the guitars I play all the time. Yeah. I like pushing an amp. You know, I like the amp to have to work. Right. You know, so I think.
So do you think that's because of the newer amps have more gain than the old ones, where you really have to punish the input?
Yeah.
Yeah, because now the amp has enough gain that you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, in the old, way back old days, when we didn't have pedals even, it was like you were looking for hotter pickups to push the amp harder. And now you don't need to do that. Yeah. And there are still plenty of people who love hot pickups, and there's something wrong with it. But it's your whole recipe. It's like from pickups to guitar to whatever pedals or whatever, and amp and speakers. Right. It's all that stuff has to work together. Right. So some people will take something too hot in the front, and they're hitting it with too much gain later, and they just get a mess. So it's learning how to balance all those things together to get the best result. Yeah. And best is also a terrible word to use because there isn't a best sound or a best pickup or a best wood.
Ideal.
It's what works for you. So that's why we do as many different things as we do, because we're not all looking for the same thing. So all the parts to make pickups, this just puts in the little eyelets in the bobbins to wax spotting for dipping the pickups afterwards. These are the winders we use.
This just strikes me interesting because I visited a pickup maker in Korea, and they had a big machine like this big, and they dip all the pickups in it for wax spotting. Yeah. But you're still very old school.
Yeah, they only need to be in there for 30 minutes, so it's not like they don't even run all day long. These are the winders we use. We built these 40 years ago. This was an old Stevens winder made in the 50s. Oh. And then we fabricated 2 extra spindles for it, added this traverse bar, so this guides the wire. This cam controls how far the guiding goes, depending on what width your bobbin is. And then the gears over here control how quickly that traverses its distance, so you can control exactly what the layering looks like. Okay. And we have some pickups where we stack the wire up really tight. More than will fit in one layer. Right. Because that's what you get if you just hold the wire in one place and let it pile up. Right. And then we have some models where we move them really fast. Yeah. Which a lot of people call scatter winding. They're like moving it all the time, moving it really fast. But by doing it this way, we can make sure that each one is the same. Okay. If you're scatter winding and just how fast are you moving your hand? It's different if you move slow or you move fast. So, right. I don't like things that I don't like it when one sounds way different. If an H2 and another H2 should sound the same.
Yes.
And in the early days, we were getting pickups from some other people, and it was frustrating when it's like, how can this one sound so different? so we've always been about pickups. Was the first thing I actually did when I started the company. Oh. It was making pickups for Schecter back in the early 80s.
Early 80s,
yeah, early 80s. And we continued to do that for probably almost 30 years. But now they're doing their own. These 2 winders, we can change. These are the different gears and cams. And we make the cams here on the CNC machine. Right. So that if we want something to be not symmetrical, we can do that too. And
then has your pickup recipe stayed constant for the most part?
It just grows.
Grows, okay.
Yeah, we still make most of the things we've always made. We've eliminated a few models that we thought we did a better job, learning more. Okay. But we still make all the original humbuckers we made. And then we use a couple different kinds of wire. We have about four different gauges of wire, and we use form bar for a lot of things, and we use polysol, which is a more modern wire, for some things. And then these are all the different pickup covers. And we assemble bridges here. It's all the saddles here.
Okay.
And then these are we got a guy who worked for us for many years, and he just moved out of the area, and he was making all our wiring harnesses.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Do you think, what about making wiring harnesses at your house?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, that'd be great. So every week he sends us
Nice
wiring harnesses, and it's worked out wonderfully.
Yeah.
It's good for him. It's good for us. He's retired,
Okay.
So he goes, I got nothing to do all day.
Oh, there you go.
I like harnesses. So these are pickups in partial stages. So when we wind coils, we usually wind more than we know we're going to need, so that if we ever do need something in a hurry, we could grab one of these and finish it up. And then this is
final assembly.
Final assembly.
Yeah.
So the bodies come in here, and they're polished, all ready to go. The shielding paint's in there. They're all cleaned up. So they will take a really hard look at it to make sure there's nothing they don't like about it. And then they'll start the whole process of, they'll be dressing the neck, they'll be installing all the electronics, installing all the hardware, setting it up, cutting the nut, intonating, all that stuff. So one person is in charge of the whole thing from start to finish.
Oh, okay.
So rather than an assembly line kind of process, they're all working on their own.
That's neat, because like one person's just responsible for the whole instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good, because you feel you can take responsibility where there's not like blaming.
Well, and also you know exactly what's going into that guitar at any given moment.
Yeah.
There's no second guessing.
Yeah. And they've all got they've got these build sheets for the guitars they're working on, and it's got all the specs of the guitar on it. So.
Okay.
And then they build guitars all week, and then on Friday they move the guitars down to where the playroom is, and they sit there over the weekend, and then on Tuesday or Wednesday, Marcus will do the initial visual inspection, checking out electronics, checking neck relief, action, all the intonation, all that stuff. And he'll go through all the guitars, and then I'll go through them, and I just play them, and just a final kind of sign off. I'm not probably looking as hard as he's really eyeballing every nook and cranny, where I'm mostly just saying, yes, this feels and sounds the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
So
Now, how many guitars do you play at that stage where you sort of think that, maybe they should stay here?
Oh, I don't get attached anymore. Okay. I have too many guitars already.
Right.
So we're more looking at it like, are these the way they're supposed to be?
Okay.
A person gets this, are they going to freak out how great it is?
Right.
Or, the worst thing is somebody to get something and go, hey, it's supposed to play like, we don't want to hear that. So, So we work really hard at, like I say, they build it in here, and it has a better part of a week to sit under string tension, because again, the neck spin is kind of just hanging out on the rack over there, and now it's, I got strings on me. And, so, we want to give it a chance to really get used to being a guitar, and then get a final tuning and setup, so that when it gets to the store, it really is ready to play.
Yeah. So. Well, I have a couple of questions on the guitars that are displayed outside.
Sure.
On the thing. And I think this would be like interesting for the viewers. So let's start with this one.
Well, that was when was it? That was the late 80s. And
the old headstock?
Yeah, that was 1990 was the last year of that headstock. Let's see. So that guitar, I had been longtime friends with Pierre de Beauport, who was the guitar tech for the Stones and still is.
Okay.
He's been around with them forever. And before I started this company, I had done some consulting work for Kramer.
Okay.
And made some guitars for some artists and stuff. And Mick ended up with one of those guitars. And then Pierre said, hey, you made this, didn't you? I said, yeah, I made that. And he said, well, Mick's looking for something else, And so I said, well, we had this guitar. So, and see, this was before bending the top.
Yes, it's a flat top, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we'd made a guitar for Keith. We made a Cobra that he played for a number of years. It was got a lot of views of that one. It was cool. But then Mick needed this other guitar for it was the Urban Jungle Tour. That's what that one is. Oh. And or it was Steel Wheels Tour, the one before that he needed a guitar. And so we sent this out, and Pierre got it and goes, it's not exactly what he really just needs a single pickup, and he doesn't want a locking bridge. I said, well, we could do that. So he said, well, what about this guitar? Because he really doesn't need it. And I said, well, can you get the guys to sign it and send it back? So we did.
Nice.
And we made another guitar, and then we made another guitar for this tour, the Urban Jungle Tour for Nick, and it had that graphic on it. It was a purple guitar, and it had that graphic in bright yellow, I think.
Oh, nice.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
That was a wild thing, too. We were building that guitar, and we had no time whatsoever. It's like they were rehearsing in a castle in France for the tour. And we had the guitar parts made, the body and neck made, and sealed. And then they actually flew a courier on the Concorde from France to LA with the artwork.
Wow.
He laid it on the body. Then he took that body and the artwork to Dan Lawrence, who's a graphic artist. And Dan did the graphic on it that day, and we got it back the next day.
Wow.
And it was like this. I don't even want to think about how much that guitar cost them to build,
Oh, holy.
But again, they're super nice people.
Right.
They're a treat to deal with.
Yeah.
This
is my first visual of an Anderson guitar.
From Kirk Hammett.
From Kirk Hammett.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was. I remember just seeing I think one of the guitar magazines he was holding that Anderson. It's like, what is this guitar?
I have a story about that picture, actually.
Okay.
We were, back then, we had our distributor in Japan was ESP.
Okay.
Because they distribute other products in Japan. And Mr. Shibuya, the owner of ESP, came to the NAMM show. And he said, how come you don't do artist endorsements? Why don't you do that? I go, well, because I said, well, here, let me show you something. He goes, I said, Kirk Hammett is an endorser of your guitars, right? Here's a Guitar Player magazine with him sitting playing our guitar.
Yeah.
That's not good. I said, we want people to be able to play what they want to play.
Right.
We would love them to play our guitars, but if they prefer something else, that's what they should be playing.
Right.
So I said, that's why we really don't do artist models, because does that mean nobody else can order that guitar, or they're paying a premium because it's got some guy's name on it? So,
right.
So we've never gone after the whole.
Okay.
We've got like now we have Danny's been working, like you've been talking to Danny and stuff, and just talking to up and coming guys and stuff, and people that are just out doing the work.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. 3 of the top guitar players that I personally know, that are friends of mine in the Philippines, play our guitars. One has a classic, and then 2 have the Angel, the quilt tops. One actually passed through LA a couple of weeks ago, playing that exact guitar at the Saban Theater. Oh, man. Yeah, so it's still nighttime in the Philippines, but I texted him a photo of me with the Anderson shop. It's like, he's going to freak out.
Oh, man. Are you LA based?
I'm based here in LA.
Cool. These are just different guitars. Lori Berg was my business partner for 28 years, and she passed away in 2017, and this was her guitar.
Yeah.
So that's why it's here. But she was awesome. And we wouldn't be who we are without her. She was just a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
She was a family friend of mine, and when the company first started. So this was 1987 or 88. And my wife said, you need somebody to get you organized. You know how to make guitars, but you're a terrible, business person.
Right.
And So she had done hospital administration, some other things like that, and was not working at the time. And she goes, "You should talk to Lori about just coming and getting you organized." I did everything on a yellow pad. I didn't have a computer. And,
Oh.
well, it was 87, so computers weren't, 20 megabyte hard drive. So she said, "Yeah, I'll do that. I'll come and I'll stay for 6 months and get you organized, and then I'll go do something else." Well, 28 years later, she's still here.
That's great. That's the best advice you took.
Yeah. And this is an interesting one too. This guitar, a guy had contacted us about doing a neck replacement on his guitar, which is this guitar. And then he said, "Yeah, I'm thinking I want to maybe change the pickups too and everything." I'm just going. And then when the guitar arrived here, it was perfect. It's pristine. So 1990, last year of the headstock, and it was just in perfect condition. He's played it for sure, but in super great condition. And it just killed me to think that we were going to undo this, best example we've got of one of our early guitars.
Right.
So he said, "Well, what if we keep this one and we just make you a new guitar?" He goes, "Yeah." So that's what we did.
That's awesome.
And this one, again, this was one of our dealers in the Bay Area, Guild Music. Keith Scherzauer worked there, and he was just, again, unbelievably wonderful person, and he died suddenly, way too young.
Okay.
So Marcus actually had this guitar. It was Marcus's guitar. He had it made in loving memory of Keith.
Right.
So that's why we keep that one out.
Okay, and I think this is the guitar I wanted to ask you about, because a recent Steve Vai interview, your name came up when he was shopping, looking for his signature guitar. And he mentioned that, before Ibanez, you were the top runner. Yeah. So was there anything special about that guitar that you thought Steve would like?
Well, it was he had already had like those 3 Charvels, the red Charvel.
Right.
He had a green one. They were all 3 a little bit different and stuff. So he had pretty defined things that, the one we made for him had the monkey grip in it, and it had some extra deep, like claw marks, so the bridge could come back farther and stuff.
Were those things he specified before he?
We talked about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the graphic was something that a friend of ours came up with, a guy who does graphic work, and he actually. So there was no. Steve didn't have any input on the graphics. That was just something that Kelly came up with. And he also did with silk screening stuff. So this is actually silk screen. And this was the test body to test the silk screening process.
I see.
You can see it didn't quite finish down there. So the one Steve had finished nice. And it did not have a pick. I think it didn't have a pick guard.
Okay.
I don't think you can see the channels in the Steve Vai one.
I see. Okay. But that one was also 22 frets?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't doing 24 frets at that time. And I think his was a maple neck. It was an odd deal with him because he said he wasn't looking for a big company and everything, and we made the guitar. And like weeks later or days later, he signed with Ibanez for all this money, and I was like, "Come on, man." But again, that's a lot of money. So I don't blame him. I definitely have no animosity towards him at all.
No, but it's great. I mean,
he's a fun guy.
It's a testament to like the guitars that you build, because
and that guitar ended up on records, so that was nice that it got used.
And this is a burned guitar?
Yeah. This was, do you know Sean Nash?
No.
He's another up-and-coming guy.
Okay.
He was doing a music video and wanted a guitar to burn. And I was playing it. So this was a junk neck and a junk body. And we just threw it together.
Well, so that kind of makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, it wasn't a real guitar. It was a guitar that got damaged and shit.
I'm not going to burn an Anderson.
No.
Okay, there you have it. That is a quick behind-the-scenes look here at Anderson Guitarworks with Mr. Tom Anderson himself. Thank you so much. All the links will be in the video description, so please give the Anderson socials your follow, your like, and enjoy these wonderful, wonderful guitars as I will enjoy mine. Yeah, it's right there, and you will see it soon. Okay, do all the good things.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheers.